this is a place where you can make an impact, you can make a difference. If you don't like how something is, then get involved with it. If the thing that you want, the thing that you're into isn't here, make it. The community will support it.
Welcome to the For Henderson Podcast, where we share stories of the people in our community who are helping build a great city and showing us every day that they are for Henderson. We are back on the For Henderson Podcast, and today we have Sean Leavelle with us. Sean, just introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. I'm Sean Leavelle. I have lived in Henderson for right about 12 years now, and happy to be here.
Yeah, so so you're a transplant. I'm actually a transplant myself. You've been here longer than me, but I fell in love with Henderson as soon as I got here. So tell us what brought you to Henderson?
So it's for work, really, is what brought me here. I had been, let's see. So I was born and raised California, and then we moved to Lexington. My wife and I and our oldest son moved to Lexington. We were there for a year. And then work, again, just brought me out here. It was specifically Evansville.
Okay.
And I was going to be working in Evansville. And so we came out and we were just kind of exploring the area. You know, we spent a day in Evansville, and then the next day we came down to Henderson, and we fell in love with Henderson.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of fun. It's kind of cheesy, but like I remember exactly where we parked. So like we drove into town, we drove down Main Street, and then we turned right on 2nd, headed down towards the river, and then we ended up parking right in front of On Deck. So right in between On Deck and Rookies.
Sure.
It was summertime. The fountains were going. It was a beautiful day, and then we went in and ate lunch at On Deck, and it was just like, oh, this is it. This is where we're.
Yeah.
This is the spot. We have to live here. It was great.
Yeah, it's funny how Henderson kind of has that effect on people. I've talked to, as a transplant myself, I've talked to several other people, hopefully some others that I'll have here on the podcast eventually, that have all kind of had a similar story. Like, you know, you show up and you're like, oh, okay. So my dad actually grew up here. I never lived here until I was much older, but I grew up not too far from here in a place that never really felt like home.
Sure.
It was just like, I'm quote unquote home, but it
Sure.
doesn't feel like home. And as soon as we got to Henderson, my wife and I moved here right after we got married, and it felt immediately like home, which is pretty cool. So you said you moved here initially because of work. Work brought you here. What are you involved with? What do you do?
So yeah, it was work, but really it was a job opportunity. So
Okay.
My wife and I were still newlyweds. We've been married for a couple years. We were in the process of adopting our oldest son. He was 11 when he moved in with us, and so we're going through the process of adoption with him. And then we got pregnant with our daughter, and my wife was like, I want to stay home. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, I love that, but we're living in Southern California, and we need a new plan.
Right.
Because this is not gonna work. We tried to figure it out. We ran the numbers. What if I picked up another job? What if we moved 45 minutes away in a direction that we don't really want to, and we lived in an apartment, and we stepped everything down, and the numbers just did not work.
Right.
And so we had some friends that lived in Lexington, Kentucky. There was a job opportunity, and so we went for it. So we packed everything up, moved the whole family, and I went to work for a furniture store in Lexington, Kentucky, Lexington Overstock Warehouse, and that's all. The numbers worked that way. It was a great job, great company, and they were expanding. They wanted to open a location in Evansville Overstock Warehouse, and they had someone lined up to do that, and that person fell out, and so they asked if I wanted to go, and I was like, "Oh, relocate again a year later," and my wife was pregnant again at this point, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing this is insane. But my whole drive at that time, this would have been um, late 20s, mid to late 20s for me. I was really just trying to provide for my family. And
Mhm.
so if that meant I had to move us across town or whatever that was, like, move across the country, fine. We'll do it because I just need to be able to provide and give my family what they need. So we did that, and that's how we came through. We toured through Evansville, ended up in Henderson, and I worked for that company for Evansville Overstock Warehouse for about 5 years.
Okay.
I was living in Henderson, working in Evansville, and then I left that company. Still a great company. Um, I highly recommend everyone check it out. But it was just time for me to move on.
Sure.
And so I went to work for a HVAC distributor in Evansville. I did that for about 6 years. And, um, it, it was a weird thing. It was a terrible career move,
Yeah.
but it was like an immediate mistake when I moved. I was like, this is not the right fit for me. And I knew it. Um, but it was like, what do you do?
Right.
Um, it was like,
We're here now.
we're here now, so we'll make the best of it. Um, and so I like I say, I did that for 6 years. COVID happened right kind of in the middle of that,
Mm-hmm.
which it just made everything weird,
Yeah.
because it
It
was like,
it did that.
yeah, for sure. So it was like, I was considering, I was looking for a new job, but then COVID happened, and again, that all went out the window. It was just like, hey, we're kind of in survival mode right now. Um, and and I was a little gun shy at that point because I had made a career move and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really pan out. And honestly, it was a really humbling moment because I had worked for that furniture store for like 6 years, one in Lexington, five out here, and I was kind of I don't know, riding kind of high. It had been, everything had gone kind of easy.
Sure.
Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't easy, but like I'd had success,
Right.
and I had a great team, and I just, in my head, it's like, well, this is how careers work. You work hard and you're rewarded for it, and everything goes great. And I had never really had a setback until I changed careers, and then it made me nervous to do that again.
Right.
And I didn't want to make another like lateral move. I didn't
Mhm.
want to do the same thing in like the electrical field or something. It was like I wanted to step up in my career, and honestly, I just was not successful in
Mm.
that. I kept going on job interviews, and it would come down to like me and one other person, and it would always be the other person.
Yeah, that's tough.
And I went through a couple years where I it got a little dark.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little frustrated, I got a little angry, um, and it wasn't I'm not proud of those years.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a great husband, I wasn't a great father during those times. Again, nothing crazy, I was just in a bad mood.
Sure.
I was in a bad mood, I was unhappy, and I was blaming other people. Like, these people don't realize how great I am, how smart I am, how, like, they should be hiring me and they don't get it. And I spent, again, probably about 2 years kind of going down that road. And then at some point in time, and I don't know exactly what it was, but something clicked. And I was like, I could probably do this for a very long time
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's going to change. Or maybe I could just accept that it's not about them, it's about me. Um, I need to accept that maybe I'm not as great or as smart or as good of a catch as I think I am, because I wasn't. And so if I want something to be different, if I want something to change, then I need to change something.
Mm.
And I did. I started making some big changes in my life. So um, I was smoking cigarettes at the time. I stopped. I was a little overweight, nothing crazy, but a little overweight, a little out of shape. So I dropped some weight. I started working out. And I started getting involved in some things.
Mm-hmm.
And I got involved with the Henderson Soccer Club,
Okay.
kind of coaching. I got involved with the Men's Bourbon Society of
Very cool.
Henderson, and I started going back to school. Um, so I had always kind of avoided school. I graduated high school. I tried college, didn't really take, and wasn't it wasn't for me. I would start college and then I would drop out and I would go work full time and then I would go, oh, this job is terrible, and then I would go back to college and I spent years doing that until eventually I met my wife and kind of kicked this whole thing off. So, um, but I decided, hey, this is something this is something I need to square up. I need,
Yeah.
it is getting in the way. It didn't get in the way before. It's getting in the way now. So I started going to school. Um, and then, you know, it's not like everything got better right away by any means, but like I started feeling better. I was more present at home. I was not in a bad mood, and I just kind of accepted my career was at where it was at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of building for whatever was gonna come next. And I didn't know what that was, and I couldn't see it, but I was like, I'm trusting the process.
Yeah.
And this is the path I'm on, and I'm committed to it. And at times it felt very stupid. Like, why am I doing all this? Why am I um, going to these things or getting involved in these events? Because sometimes it's awkward. I'm
Right.
not from here. I don't always know people, but I'm trying to meet people, and I'm in it. But again, I just kind of went with it. And eventually, sorry, this is
No,
going
no,
on.
you're good. You're good.
Eventually, through the Bourbon Society, I met Scott Davis,
Yeah.
and that really started to change things. So I met Scott. I didn't know him, and we got seated next to each other on a bus. We were going to Churchill Downs, and we're just talking, and he's asking about me because I'm not from Henderson, and
Right.
and I'm like, so yeah, so Scott, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I work for Field and Main Bank, and I was like, oh, that's great. I don't know that I'm sitting next to the president of the bank.
Right.
It was one of those kind of, in the moment I felt silly, but it was great. He could not have been more humble or
Oh,
gracious.
absolutely.
He's the best, and invited he wrote me like a handwritten letter
Wow.
a week later, um, telling me about the Henderson Leadership Initiative, which I
Yeah.
had not heard of, um, and invited me to call him to learn more about it. And he suggested that I apply. So I did, and I went through that program, and I made some great connections through that program, which eventually led me to where I work now, which is St. Anthony's here in Henderson. I'm the director of operations for them. I've been there a little over a year now,
Okay.
and so and that was it's such a cool thing because I could have never mapped that out.
Right.
St. Anthony's does hospice and palliative care, as well as bereavement services. I have no medical background. I was selling furniture, then I was selling HVAC units. eh, Nothing from medical, nothing hospice. It's one of those things, honestly, I probably wouldn't have applied for the
Right.
job. And if I had, they probably would have just, thrown my resume out. Um, but the relationships that I had built from all of these other things
Sure.
kind of helped facilitate that first meeting, and um, I was hired for that position, and honestly, it's been fantastic. It's kind of
That's cool.
it's everything that I would want. It's everything I was looking for
Wow.
that I never would have. But I couldn't have mapped it out. I couldn't have dreamed it up.
Right.
It's one of those things like trust the process, walk the path, keep your head down, do the work, etc. And like, and then all of a sudden everything snaps into focus.
So tell me what the day in the life of a director of operations at St. Anthony's looks like. I feel like that's a role that probably goes under the radar, maybe underappreciated in a lot of circumstances. What does that look like?
Um, yeah, so it's definitely behind the scenes.
Right.
Um, and so I kind of oversee human resources and finance,
Okay.
are kind of the two areas that I really oversee, and it it's just a lot of I'm dealing with our internal people things that are going on.
Right.
The way that I view my position and what I said when I was going through the interview process was that I really believe that my job or operations in general, because
Mhm.
I have been in operations management, not in healthcare, but in operations management for 15 years or so now. That role should really be there to support the rest of the organization,
Mhm.
to facilitate what the organization is trying to do, whether that
Right.
be selling furniture or selling HVAC or taking care of patients.
Mhm.
It's all about removing friction and making things as seamless as possible for people. Um, and there are days where it feels exactly like that, and there
Right.
are days where it feels like I'm failing at everything, and everything is broken, and I'm the one breaking it.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're recruiting nurses always. If you know anyone,
There you
always
go.
looking for nurses. But so yeah, we're trying to find nurses. We are, uh, you know, dealing with payroll and dealing with all the HR things. But then also kind of strategic planning for the next
Right.
3 years and what the organization is going to look like and the things that we want to do and how we want to impact the community. So I kind of have a hand in all those things, and it's great.
That's very cool. I would say that that's probably a heavy kind of industry, I guess is maybe a crass
Sure,
word, but a heavy space to be in. A lot of kind of difficult moments in families' lives and things
sure.
like that. How do you feel like that resource kind of serves Henderson? What do you see, your role in the greater community of Henderson looking like? Because I mean, I worked in HR previously.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Sometimes HR work is just like, but w- like you said, supporting the overall mission of the organization is, I
hmm
mean, it has to be done. Somebody has to do it.
right.
And so, what does that look like in terms of how Henderson benefits from that service, that support?
Hospice and palliative care, as well as bereavement, it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things like people don't necessarily like to think about it, um, but people get sick,
Right.
people die. When that happens, they leave behind loved ones
Mm-hmm.
that need to grieve. And so it's happening. Whether we want it to happen or we don't want to happen, whether we're acknowledging it or not, it's happening.
Right.
And so um, walking through those difficult times, um, you know, whether it's you or it's a loved one or it's someone that you're slightly removed from, but someone that's walking through that, it doesn't have to it's going to be painful, but it doesn't have to be chaotic. It
That's
doesn't
good.
it doesn't have to be um you know you can have a plan. You
Right.
can be prepared. You can have people to call. You can have people that you can trust around you to help you walk through this, and that's what St. Anthony's does. Um and when I was able to look at it like that,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's very easy to be 100% bought into
Sure.
to what we're doing. And like I said before, I'm not a clinician. I'm not in the field, so it doesn't. It, it is kind of heavy at
Mhm.
times. If I'm being honest, it doesn't necessarily. I don't like wear that around
Right.
on day in and day out. I don't necessarily feel that because I am slightly removed, but it'll creep up on you.
Yeah.
Uh, something will happen, or a patient story, or something that will just like really hit home in a way that did take some getting used to,
Mhm.
because that didn't happen in my previous industries,
Sure,
if you
sure.
will. Um, and I am someone that is absolutely, I don't want to say, I am, I am moved by stories,
Mhm.
and so yeah, like something will happen and just kind of catch me off guard. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like a Tuesday at work, and
Right.
I'm hit with this emotional, story or moment. Um, so yeah, it that took a little bit getting used to, but I think that the work that we do is great. Our clinicians are world class.
Mm.
Um, the St. Anthony's is the the number one priority is quality of care. The top priority is quality of care. When we go to consider, should we do something, should we not do something, should we invest in this, or should we cut this program, or whatever we're looking at, it's always patient centered. It's
Mhm.
how will this affect the patients? How will this affect quality? And if it will negatively impact quality, like, we're not doing it,
Yeah.
or we are doing it. If it's we may need to spend a little more money, um, but this is going to um, improve quality, or has the ability to improve quality, then we're willing to invest in that way. And it's cool to be a part of an organization that thinks that way.
Yeah, for sure. So you ended up there through sort of a serendipitous meeting of Scott Davis.
Yeah.
Ended up in Henderson Leadership Initiative. That's actually where I met you for the first time was at the HLI graduation a year or so ago.
Yes. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm trying to remember back. What was your all's project? What did you get involved with there?
So our project was called Connect Henderson.
Okay.
It was an event that we held. It was at the public library, is where
Mm-hmm.
we did the event. Um, we framed it as it was like speed dating for nonprofits.
Oh,
Is the
that's
way that
cool.
we set it up. So we reached out to a ton of nonprofits in Henderson and surrounding areas.
Sure.
One of them being St. Anthony's, and they came in and set up tables at the library, and then we invited the public to come in, and they could, kind of tour through the different nonprofits that were there, and
Mm,
have conversations with people, and figure out if there were areas where they could get involved and volunteer or donate, etc. I think it was successful.
that's cool.
We had a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pretty good turnout. I think it's something that honestly we could probably keep going. Like, we could do one
Right.
once a year. I think would probably be pretty successful. Um, but gotta find the people and the time, and so on
Right.
and so forth.
So I have I guess going back earlier in your story, maybe this is just a curiosity thing for
Sure.
me. You said you adopted one of your kiddos.
Yes.
So I went through HLI a couple years before you did, and
Sure.
my project, I was on a small team, but my project was around foster care.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just curious, did you have any involvement in that process as you were going through the adoption process or anything like that?
So technically, he was fostered. We didn't go through. It's a weird. It's not weird. It's a interesting story, if you will.
Mhm.
So, I was working at a group home in Southern California,
Okay.
as was my wife. That's where we met. And so it was a group home that we lived there, and worked there. And so that's how we met, and we ended up getting married, and we still lived on campus. We
Hmm.
lived in, like, at that point, it was like staff housing. Prior to that, there were staff rooms in the cabins with the kids. Um, and then we ended up moving off site, and we still worked there. But there was one kid, our son, our son Joey. He didn't need to be in a group home. He was in a group home, but he did not need to be in a group home. His behaviors didn't dictate that he should be in a group home. And he moved out of the group home. He was placed with a foster family, and we were newlyweds at the time. My wife and I, we'd been married like a year or less than a year. And he moved to that foster home, and we are like, this is wonderful. This is great. Like, because he didn't need to be in a group home.
Right.
This is awesome. In talking, we said we should kind of just keep an ear out for how he's doing, because if we ever hear that he ends up back in a group home for whatever reason, we should adopt him, because he shouldn't be in a group home. And we agreed on that. I was like, yeah, of course. Yes, that makes sense. And then 7 days later, he was back in a group home.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of those like, okay, well, yeah, like we said that, but we were thinking like in a few years, we're like,
right.
we're newlyweds. But it was one of those things, like when we said it, when we made that decision in that conversation, like we meant it.
Yeah.
And it felt like a pretty important moment for our marriage. Like, we didn't just say that lightly, we really meant it. And this isn't exactly what we thought it would look like, but
Sure.
we meant it. So we started that process, and it was a pretty long and complex process. He ended up moving in with us. I'm going to mess the timeline up, but I want to say it was probably like 6 months after we started the process.
Oh, wow.
He was in a different group home for that period of time, and then he moved in with us. And even then, still, the adoption process wasn't finalized until we were living in Henderson at that point.
Oh, wow.
It took several years.
Wow. Yeah, my wife and I adopted 3 foster kids.
Oh, wow.
And the process wasn't, which we didn't cross state lines, and there's a lot of different things you did there, but
Sure.
yeah, it's a wild process. Definitely comes with stories.
Yeah.
Which you've experienced.
Yep.
So you've been in Henderson for over a decade now.
Yeah.
What do you, and now you're, heavily involved with, things like HLI, and you're working at a local nonprofit. What do you see as just your hope for Henderson in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see our community going? What do you hope will be, kind of the feature of our community moving into the future?
Sure. If I look back on like when we first got here, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, to what Henderson looks like today, it has been funny or interesting to watch it grow.
Right.
Because there has been tremendous growth. My hope would be that growth continues.
Yeah.
It, it's awesome to see stories like when Pratt Paper came in.
Yeah.
And they're a huge employer in this area now. Stories like that, more stories like that, the success that downtown Henderson has seen over the past several years with new restaurants and stores opening up. It feels like, and I've heard this from, people that I've met, people that I've become friends with, about how, they grew up in Henderson, and they at times maybe always plan on getting out of Henderson.
Yeah.
Because Henderson was didn't have what they wanted. It was missing something, and to get that thing, whatever it be, it may be like they were going to have to go somewhere else, somewhere bigger.
Right.
And I feel like that's becoming less and less the case.
I agree with that. I think I see that too.
And so that would be my hope. People are always going to want to leave. And I think that's fine. And some people will want to come back, and some people won't. But I hope that people don't feel like they have to leave because, either this community is not representative of them, or this community doesn't have the thing that they want or that they need. I hope that people are able to find themselves here and stay and invest in the community, and that it just continues to grow. Like that's what I hope long term.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny you mentioned that because as my wife and I were getting close to getting married, she had just moved up here, found a job at a local elementary school, and I hadn't even moved up here yet. And we already had a plan. Like, we're gonna be in Henderson for this many years, and then
Right.
we're moving. Nashville was our spot. We were going to Nashville.
Same.
Yeah, okay.
Same. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Originally. Yeah.
and it's funny that, like you said, we got here and we were immediately captured by the community and just the people and kind of it's hard to even describe, but
Yeah.
it was quick that we were like, I don't think we're going to Nashville.
Yeah.
And here we are, 9 years later, and we're still, loving this. Feels like home. We're trying to get more involved, and it's just really cool to see those things happen.
Yes. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I want to close every episode with on this podcast, and I hope that as we see more and more faces and hear more and more stories that come through here, that this will really start to kind of create a vision for the future.
Sure.
But what does being for Henderson mean to you?
Sure. Um, that's such a good question. I think that being for Henderson, to me, it means that you are you're taking some ownership and some responsibility for what Henderson is.
That's
It
good.
it's not just being for Henderson doesn't mean that you are a visitor or a guest or you're here to just enjoy what the city has to offer, but you're willing to get involved. That's been my favorite thing about Henderson, and the thing I think that's resonated the most with me is I didn't hit any closed doors. When I asked about um, joining the Bourbon Society, it was come on in.
Yeah.
When Scott Davis invited me to HLI, um, with the Henderson Soccer Club, when I was truthfully, I got involved because I was frustrated with my daughter's coach,
Yeah.
and my wife said, "Well, then you should coach," and she was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, like that's so simple, but that's like that's it. That's it. Like you can. This is a place where you can make an impact. You can make a difference. If you don't like how something is, then get involved with it.
Yeah.
If the thing that you want, the thing that you're into isn't here, make it.
Mm.
Like the community will support it.
Yeah.
There's enough people and there's enough um, variety of interests. Like, and I've seen it happen. I've seen. Well, I mean, this podcast is an example of that. But I've seen other groups pop up or events pop up where it's like they're. This was someone's passion project
Right.
that it's a thing that they saw a need for. It's a thing that they wanted to do. No one else is doing it, so they did it, and the community supported it.
Yeah.
And I just think that's great. So being for Henderson is taking responsibility and sharing in the responsibility of creating the city that we live in.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think I've seen that, like you said, multiple times, and I've even been involved in it multiple times.
Yeah.
Like you said, this podcast is kind of a small expression of that, but I've seen, just different events pop up. I think since I've moved to Henderson, we've added a ton of different cultural,
Absolutely.
representative type events. I know
Absolutely.
that Juneteenth has launched out of an HLI project.
Yep.
Dia de los Muertos
Yep.
has come around since I've been in Henderson.
Mhm.
Seen a ton of different restaurants and organizations and businesses and things pop up. It's just been really, really cool to see that growth. And I think it's because, number one, like you said, I feel like that we do have a supportive community here. But number two, I think that the word that I kept hearing you say is ownership.
Yes.
People take that ownership, and that's important. As we step into that, it creates opportunities for us to kind of synergize in ways that we couldn't without one another.
Yep.
We couldn't without a community that is willing to, step up and take some ownership.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. Sean, is there anything else that you want to share? Anything else about your story or about your, anything else you'd like to share?
Man, I feel like we just about covered all of it.
Covered it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I think I kind of shared it. If you know any nurses, send them my way.
Definitely.
If you have any kids that want to play soccer, send them my way.
So
That's
now,
what I'm
are
all about.
you're coaching? How does that club soccer? How does that work here?
So I'm involved. There's a couple different soccer programs. I'm involved in Henderson Soccer Club.
Okay.
So that's the rec soccer program, and we play out at Newman Field. And there's 2 sessions. There's the upcoming one will be the spring session, and then there's one in the fall also. And it's great, even if your kids have not played soccer before. It's all we never know who's going to show up. Some
Right.
kids have tons of experience. Some kids have literally never played before. We always have fun. Everyone has fun, and I couldn't speak higher of that, like that experience and how good that can be for kids, just
What
being on a team and participating.
what ages does that start?
Oh gosh, we actually the last time around, I think we'll do it this time as well. We did a U5. It's like
Okay.
U5 to U15.
Okay.
So yeah, bring them out.
Very cool. I've got two 5s and a 4. So
You're right there.
yeah, right
You're
there.
right there.
And none of them have played soccer, so it would
Perfect.
definitely be an interesting experience for sure. You can flood everyone around the ball at that age.
Exactly.
And they just flock around. You know where the ball is because the mass of children that run around with the ball. Well, Sean, it's been great talking to you and just hearing your story. And I hope that anyone who's listening to this would follow along. We, like Sean and I have said, we are passionate about our community. And we want to take some ownership, and we hope that you will too. And whatever being for Henderson looks like to you, if you're watching or listening to this, and like Sean and I have said, we would love for you to go on this journey with us. So don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things that you're supposed to do when you watch and listen to things like this. And we look forward to talking to you on the next episode.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for being for Henderson. Because great cities don't just happen, they're built. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening, and let's keep building ours together.